Welcome to this video tutorial for MYP design, in which I'm going to try and make a photo frame. And what I've got on the screen here is my isometric exploded drawing that I've done of my photo frame idea. The photo frame is going to be made out of sheet material. The sheet material is going to be cut using a laser cutter. So once I've gone through my design here, I'm going to show you how I'm going to construct this as a series of 2D CAD drawings on TechSoft 2D Design, and we'll talk as well about how I'm going to configure that CAD file so it will work with a laser cutter. And then once that's done, I'll go ahead and laser cut it, and perhaps in a separate video on the end, I'll then show you the actual final product and show how it all sticks together to make the photo frame. So let's just have a little look at my idea here. What I'm wanting to do is work with 4 pieces of sheet material, which I'm then going to effectively glue together. So I've got part A, B, C and D. Now part A and D are sheets of opaque acrylic, and I've not chosen a color for this. At this point it's just the kind of the engineering concept that I'm looking at. I could obviously choose any color that I want. In this case I'm probably going to choose the same color for the front and the back, but we could change them. Please notice as well that I've also got a plain front face here. This is what you'd see when you look at the picture. I could do some kind of laser engraved effects into here, or I could change the external profile of the shape to make it more interesting. Maybe I could use perhaps this area that I'm going to cut out of the acrylic sheet. I could actually create some designs in here, and I could stick those designs onto the front face here of the frame to make the whole thing a lot more interesting. But for this video I'm just going to stick with the basic concept here and just concentrate on the kind of technical side of creating the CAD file and then seeing how the product works. So that's my 2 sheets of acrylic. I've also got parts B and C. They're going to be made from PET, or PETG to be specific, and that's basically a thermoplastic polymer, which is a little bit like polyester that you get in clothing, but this is instead polyester but in a sheet material. So that's what I'm going to be using, and what's interesting about this material is that it generally comes in clear transparent sheets. So this sheet B is going to give me a window or window covering. Sheet C here is then going to be a cutout, and into this cutout I'll be able to slot in my photo for my photo frame. Hopefully it's fairly clear that A gives me the window, and part D here is like a backing sheet that then holds the whole thing together. 1 or 2 more points to show you here. I am working with a picture size which is 75 by 50 millimeters, which is basically half the size of a standard 6 by 4 inch picture. If I scroll down here, I can see that I'm going to be gluing these 3 sections together onto the first part A, and I've also got a fold line here. I'm going to use a hot wire strip here to basically to fold the acrylic sheet here to roughly 110 degrees, and that's going to mean this area here is then going to become a flat base that's going to support the photo frame when it's resting on a table or a sideboard, for example. So that is basically my idea. I've also got some dimensions in here, and I'm going to be using those dimensions when I put the design together in TechSoft 2D Design. So here we go. Let's bring that to the side onto my extended desktop, and let's now bring in 2D Design. As usual with all of my CAD work, I'm going to start off by changing the grid. So I'm going to right click up here on the grid settings, and my default options are I'm going to specify that as being 5 millimeters in the X and 5 millimeters Y for the grid spacing. I'm going to change the style of the grid to lines, and the color here is going to be pale blue. Okay, let's confirm that. And one of the other things I'm going to do here as well, and I've not checked this yet, but I'm going to take this drawing area, which is normally A3, and I'm going to instead change it into A4 landscape. A4 landscape? No, I'm going to change my mind there. I'll put it into A4 portrait. And the reason for doing that is that we have an A3 laser cutter here in our school, and I'm wanting to do 2 frames at the same time from one A3 sheet of material. So let's see, I'm going to go to Setup, Drawing, Layout, and I'm going to change this to A4 Portrait. Okay, so this really defines the boundaries that all my sheet material can fit into, and if I go outside this, then it means I've got to redevelop my design and make it smaller somehow. So let's get going with this. I'm just thinking maybe I could move this to the left hand side. Yes, that works rather well. Let's bring this in and put this to the right hand side. Let me see if I can lose that. No, that's quite nice. Now I can see what I'm doing more clearly. Can I zoom out here? Okay, good. Right, so I'm going to start off here by basically drawing, and a bit more there. Oh, look, I've not got a dimension down there in my drawing. That's bad. This, I believe, should be 70. So I'm sorry, that dimension's missing. That's a mistake on my part. So let's try and draw this front frame to begin with, just as it is. Okay, rectangle tool in Texoft 2D. I'm going to start with grid lock turned on, so I'm snapping to my 5mm grid. And I'm going to start actually from the origin, and I'm going to come X to 70, which should remember be this width here, and Y is going to be 160. Remember, I'm working with my absolute grid references here because I'm working from the origin. So this is going to be 70 by 160. There we are. Okay, I'm going to click there. Now that's given me the basic size and shape of this front face. Now let's pick this up. Let's bring it in a little bit. Just 5mm there. Let's now zoom in. Now we've got more control over this area. I want to have a 10mm margin here, and a 10mm margin here, and a 10mm margin here, because this window here, for the time being at least, is going to be 50mm in width and 75 in height. So I'm going to work away from here. Remember, this grid is 5mm, so I want to come in 2 squares to make it 10mm or 1 centimeter. And I'm going to make this 50 by 75, like that. I'm going to have a dotted line down here. Line tool, line properties. I'm going to make this dotted. And that actually wants to be 60 from the bottom. So to get that right, let's get a dimension line. Let's come up 60 from the bottom. Oh, that was wrong. Undo. I was looking at the absolute grid references. I need to look at the relative grid references. Bring it up to 60. There. Good. Which means that my dotted line, and I've kept the line properties here, that's where I'm going to have the fold. Now I've got a slightly deeper base here. Reason for that is, firstly, I'm just thinking it's going to make the frame look more stable if it's got a bigger base on the tabletop. And secondly, when I hot wire strip heat and bend the acrylic here, there is going to be a slight radius in the bend, and so it will actually have, it won't bend perfectly on that line. It will actually bend over probably 5 or 6mm width. So it will actually naturally make this bottom face of the frame here a little bit narrower. Okay, so that's really the basics of the frame done. What I'm now going to do is start to think a little bit more about how the whole thing is going to fit together. Now, when I put a picture into my photo frame here, the reality is that the picture is going to be, hopefully, as close to 50 in the X and 75 in the Y, so it's going to be in portrait. But what I don't want to do is have it so that there is the edge of the photo showing. I want to make it so that when you look through the frame here, you really get a really nice, neat edge to the photo frame. So I'm actually going to create a contour, a graphical contour inside this 1mm in thickness. So I'm going to come to the contouring tool. Contour spacing is going to be 1mm graphical. And I'm going to click on the inside edge. Oh, and look, I've kept my dotted line properties, which I didn't want. So I'm going to undo that. Let's come back to the contour tool, confirm, and let's change those line properties back to, scroll up, a solid line. Okay, let's try that again. So there I've got a slightly smaller window to make sure that I don't see the edge of the photo. So that's for this part A here. Now I also need to have part C as a slot to drop in my picture, and my thinking at this point is that I don't want to have this slot too tight so that when I put the picture in I've got to force it in any way and perhaps damage the picture or crease it or jam it. So I'm actually going to have this slot 1mm wider. So again, contouring tool, and I'm going to click 1mm wider there. Now just to clarify what's happening here, let's select this inner line, and I'm going to make that green, and I'm going to select the outer line, and I'm going to make that purple, or pinky purple. There we are. Okay, so just to confirm here, the green line is going to be for part A, so I don't see the edge of my picture, and the purple line is going to be for part C here, so that I have plenty of space, should I say, for the picture to slide in. It's not going to jam or get damaged. Okay, no, I think I'm pretty much there now. So that's effectively done the template for the rest of my design. Now, of course, if I wanted to stylize the front face here, now would be the time to do it. If I wanted to do some laser engraving on this front face, now would be the time to do it, etc. But I'm going to keep it, as I said earlier, nice and simple. Now what I'm going to do, something a little bit strange. I might, if I want to, just put some more dimension lines in here to make sure that everything's as it should be. The strange thing I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom out, is I'm going to take this design, and with gridlock turned on, that's absolutely essential. I would strongly recommend that you keep gridlock on pretty much all the time. There are some exceptions, of course, but otherwise keep it on. I'm going to slide this to the side, and notice because gridlock's on, it's keeping aligned to the grid. The reason why I'm doing that is because I now want to keep this as a master version of my CAD file, and if it's off the page, it won't get laser cut. And then I'm going to bring parts of this master design back into my drawing area for part A, B, C, and D. So let's have a see how that's going to work. I'm going to start on part A. So I'm not going to pick up the dimension lines, I'm just going to pick up this part here. And I could copy it by clicking here on the copy button, but I won't. I actually prefer doing Control C, which I've just done, and Control V, which I've just done, to duplicate this. I just find that if you use Control C, Control V, it sticks to the grid a lot more reliably. Sometimes if you use the copy tool at the bottom there, it doesn't always align to the grid again, which can be really annoying. Okay, now I want to have this front part A with a smaller size window. So I'm actually going to get the delete any tool, and I'm going to delete the bigger window and the original window and just be left here with the green. And I think at this point what I'll do is I'll change that black back to black, but hopefully you can see there that that is 1mm in from my original grid sized frame window. Let's go to the last view there. That effectively, there's a few things to modify, but that's effectively the front edge here. What else? I'm also going to take the same design, Control C, Control V, and this version I'm going to move over here. Now I'm going to imagine that this is going to be part B. So therefore, what do we need to change? Well, the actual height of this part here, and again I've done this so badly, dearie me. Yeah, no, I've done it right. Look, there it is. There's the measurement. The height of part B, C, and D is actually 95. Now remember that the front face of my frame here is 100. This is 95 because I'm going to have a fold here, and as I said earlier, that fold will have a certain radius. So if I had this part to 100mm, effectively it would either stop it from folding neatly, or if I did fold it, then this would probably stick up above the rest of the photo frame, which I don't want. So I've made it slightly less, 5mm shorter in height. So to deal with that, let's see what I can do. I'm going to select this large frame, and I'm going to bring it up to here by resizing it and then 5mm up again. And now I'm going to delete that dotted line. I selected it and pressed the delete key on the keyboard. Let's check out my dimension lines here. That's now 95. Perfect. Okay, let's undo that. This is going to be my window here. Okay, but it's also going to be this sheet here and this sheet here. So I'm not going to do anything else to this yet. I'm actually going to select this now. I'm actually going to bring this off the design and scroll it with my wheel mouse, and I'm going to pop it here, because in a way this now is my template, my master template for parts B, C, and D. Okay, let's take this, Control C, Control V, let's bring it in, let's put it back down here. If I want to have this for part B, all I'm going to do is delete the frames on the inside. That's part B done. And because I'm working from these template files, these master template files, I can do that. Now I can pick up my master template file for parts B, C, and D. In fact, it's already in my clipboard memory because I copied it before. So Control V brings it straight back in again. This one I'm going to put up here. Okay, now then, this again is just like part B, it's part D, but it's going to be made from acrylic. Well, for the time being, that's not a problem. I'm simply going to select those internal window components and I'm going to delete them. Okay, now finally, part C. This is a bit more sophisticated. I'm going to select my template for parts B, C, and D. In fact, again, I don't need to because it's already in the clipboard memory. Paste it in. Okay, now in this particular case, I want to do a cutout here for the picture to slide in. But as I said before, I want this to be slightly wider than the 75 by 50 millimeters. So I'm going to go with the purple line. So I'm going to delete any, and I'm going to delete the green, and I'm going to delete the black. And I'm left with this slightly larger purple size. Now let's zoom in on this and see what we've got. As you can see, it's 1 millimeter wider each side and 1 millimeter taller each side than the original photo. Now, is that actually what I want? You know, thinking about it, if I drop a picture that's exactly 50 by 75 millimeters in height, if I drop it into there, I want it to sit squarely like this. But if I drop this down 1 millimeter, let's go into step lock here. If I drop that down 1 millimeter, it will be flush with the bottom here, but I will have a gap at the top. And I know that my actual window at the front is 1 millimeter in on all sides, but nevertheless this could give me a gap at the top here. So let me just delete that temporary representation of my photo, and I'm going to modify this. Now I could modify it by moving these lines here, but I'm going to show you another way of modifying it, which I think is going to be a lot more powerful. I'm going to go to Start Edit down here, and what that does is it brings up the nodes that define the position of that shape. And of course it's a rectangle, so I've got 4 corners, 4 nodes. I want to have it so I've still got a 1 millimeter width increase on the left and the right, but at the bottom I want to still have it aligned with the grid. So with step lock turned on, I'm going to bring this up 1 millimeter, up 1 millimeter. Now when I drop in my photo, it should sit perfectly at the bottom, but have sufficient space on the side for it to slide in. Let me end edit there and show you one other thing I'm going to do. I'm going to come to delete part. So hold down on the delete any button with the left mouse button and choose delete part instead. Now delete part, rather than deleting a whole shape, lets me delete part of a shape. And if you look at part C here, it's open at the top. So I'm going to open up the top of this purple rectangle. Now all I need to do is select this again, start edit, and then carefully relocate these nodes to the top of my part C rectangle and edit. Now we're almost there. I still need to cut an opening in here. Well, now that I've connected these purple lines to the original rectangle for my sheet material, I can now come to the delete part tool and I can delete the top edge there, and that gives me this U-formed shape which will contain my picture. Last thing to do, I'm going to select the purple shape. Let's go to line color, let's put it back to black, click off, let's go back to media, and what I've now got is effectively a CAD file for my 4 parts for my frame. I've got part A here, part B, part C, and part D. And at this point I'm going to save this as something sensible like PhotoFrame version 01. I'll stop the video and I'll come back in the next video and I'll show how I'm going to convert this into a CAD file for laser cutting. And I think actually what I'll do is I'll actually go ahead, I'll laser cut it, make a model, and then I can show you how to prep it and what the final model looks like. So see you then.